Hi, my name is Danielle Maley, and I have a plan to respond to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action. The 57th call to action says, "We call upon federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal governments to provide education to public servants on the history of Aboriginal peoples, including the history and legacy of residential schools." The 62nd call to action says, "We call upon the federal, provincial, and territorial governments in consultation and collaboration with survivors, Aboriginal peoples, and educators to 1. Make age-appropriate curriculum on residential schools, treaties, and Aboriginal peoples, historical and contemporary contributions to Canada, a mandatory education requirement for kindergarten to grade 12 students. Number 2. Provide the necessary funding to post-secondary institutions to educate teachers on how to integrate Indigenous knowledge and teaching methods into classrooms." The 63rd call to action says, "We call upon the Council of Ministers of Education of Canada to maintain an annual commitment to Aboriginal education issues, including developing and implementing kindergarten to grade 12 curriculum and learning resources on Aboriginal peoples in Canadian history, and the history and legacy of residential schools. 2. Sharing information and best practices on teaching curriculum related to residential schools and Aboriginal history. 3. Building student capacity for intercultural understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. 4. Identifying teacher training needs relating to the above." After reading these suggestions in the TRC, I have made a curricular plan to put into action some of the suggestions given. As a concerned citizen of Canada, I'm going to use my gifts and talents as an EdTech educator to support progress in the area of curriculum development and intercultural understanding. I'm going to use the ARIS app to create a learning resource that will allow people to partake in a glimpse of the experiences of First Nations peoples when Treaty 4 was signed. This activity will be an open game and shared with any educator, student, or tourist who would like to take part. ARIS is a GPS-enabled app that can be used for virtual interactive stories or tours. How it works is that when you are running the app uses your location to give you little notifications that can pop up. If you go to the right location, a pop-up can appear that can either be text, video, song, or a picture. My virtual tour is going to have the participants try to relive or experience what the leaders of the First Nations people experienced when signing Treaty 4 in September 1874. This virtual tour or game is going to be located outside the First Nations University of Canada. The story will start with me narrating a little bit of the context of the time. The characters in this story or tour are Loud Voice, the chief of the Cree people, Cote, the chief of the Soto, a Soto named the Gambler, Alexander Morris, the Lieutenant Governor of Manitoba, David Laird, the Minister of the Interior, and W.J. Christie, the headman of Hudson's Bay Company. The participants will be asked to walk to different locations around the First Nations University and interact with these different people. The first task will be to go to a teepee and hear from a member of the Cree tribe. They are going to inform the participants about the events that have taken place and tell them where to go next. The participants will be taken around campus to different spots that will help to reenact certain parts of the treaty being signed. To make this project a possibility, there are 5 things I'll need to do. 1. I need to make sure that I retell the story of what happened correctly. I don't want to manipulate people's responses to history by telling them only one side of the story. I've been getting many different resources that explain the signing of Treaty 4, and I'll have to compile them into a narrative or a script that's easily followed throughout the participant experience. I'll also be asking a First Nations Cree elder to look over the script and make sure it's acceptable in her eyes. The 60-second call to action asks post-secondary institutions to educate teachers on integrating Indigenous knowledge. Ideally, I would like some of the University of Regina education students to help me out and help me design and implement this virtual tour. If you or someone you know is interested, please tweet me at Mrs. Maley or email me at the email below. Since the 60-second call to action asks the different levels of government to provide the necessary funding to post-secondary institutions, For this type of work, I would like to find an avenue for funding that will expand the First Nations University's Wi-Fi to outside their building. This would allow students or teachers or tourists to take part in this virtual tour without using their own data or setting up multiple hotspots, I guess. For example, so I teach primary, and the students in my class, though we have enough iDevices, we wouldn't really be able to take part in this tour because we don't have Wi-Fi outside, and we don't have data. The students don't have their own phones for data. So it might get messy and the logistics of it get a little bit crazy. So if we would have Wi-Fi outside the building, everybody would be able to take part. Number 4, for this virtual tour to be successful, I'm gonna need to learn how to use the ARIS app successfully. So there are many different steps to getting all of the GPS triggers to work, and it's quite a steep learning curve for myself, so I'm hoping that others will come alongside me and collaborate with me in this way. And number 5, I will need to find some actors that would like to be part of this video component. I don't want this storyline to be cheesy or overdone, so I want to look for people who'd be willing to bring some authenticity to the storyline and script. I know this virtual tour experience can be made possible, and I am hopeful that with the help from the community, we can start acknowledging the truth of Saskatchewan history and taking steps to remove our ignorance around treaties in this province.